It had been 50 rotations since the Federation's flagship Protector had gone missing. Its last reported position was near the edge of Federation space, right on the frontier of unexplored, wild space. It had reported detecting an unidentified vessel of an unknown configuration and was going to move in for a standard seize and investigate mission. That was the last transmission ever received from the Protector. They had sent multiple search party fleets, done sweeps of dozens of systems, starting with the closest ones to its last reported position and slowly expanding outward, searching system by system, coming up empty every time. Eventually, they officially declared the Protector lost in space and called off the search. The disappearance was somewhat of a mystery for a while, having no lead save for the unidentified vessel of an unknown configuration. We knew they were going to investigate. Truth is, we had no idea what happened. That is until about 5 rotations ago. A small scout ship located a single escape pod from the Protector about 50 light years from the Protector's last known position. It held a single occupant, Commander Zeorp, the Protector's first officer. He had put himself in status, likely due to the lack of enough rations to last long enough. The scout ship had revived Commander Zeorp and brought him here, to my base. Initially, I was excited to debrief him, but he could not say much of anything. He was quite literally too scared to speak, save for some muttering of a symbol. That was 4 rotations ago, and every day I waited in anticipation for him to be ready to debrief, and every day he had broken down halfway through his first sentence. Today was different. Today, he finally recovered enough to speak. Finally, the mystery would be solved. Commander Zeorp stopped and took several deep, almost labored breaths. It was as if he was reliving his worst nightmare, except this was very real. The feed cut out almost immediately, and suddenly the alien ship systems came back online. It shouldn't have. Every reading we had prior showed the alien ship as having been disabled. Then it opened fire. It opened fire in a ship it was housed in, which is insane to even think about. Anyway, the automated security systems in the hangar bay returned fire. It couldn't have been more than a few seconds, but then the alien ship exploded. It exploded. Took out the hangar bay, communications, the FTL drive, and a good chunk of that, and the surrounding decks. He took another pause before continuing. Luckily, the automated systems sealed the decks almost immediately after the explosion, so we didn't lose too much atmosphere. But the damage had been done. I then decided to speak up. When we found and revived you, you kept mentioning something about a symbol. You weren't cognizant enough to elaborate, but... Could you recreate the symbol now? I asked. He nodded, and the tech handed him a pad and a writing utensil. It took the commander a moment, but then he handed me the pad. I looked down and saw the symbol. I didn't know what it meant, but it obviously seemed to be some sort of significance to the bipedal aliens. In any case, it was our only lead. I handed the pad to my assistant. Load this into the main computer and have it analyzed. My assistant took the pad and exited the room before I turned my attention back to Commander Zeorp and motioned for him to continue. We thought it was over. A very odd, abnormal, and violent end, but an end nonetheless. He paused, letting out a sigh. We couldn't have been more wrong. That's when things started to go wrong. A primal sense of fear started to form inside me, the kind where you know you are being watched by a predator. I know where this story was going. Commander Zeorp paused, taking a deep breath and locking eyes with me before continuing. The soldiers never even made it to Deck 5. The bipeds knew we were coming and ambushed the team en route. That's when they went on the offensive. They started taking the ship level by level. The crew members that didn't evacuate in time were knocked out by a single hit from their weapons. None of you? I asked, confused. Well, obviously you made it. It held me there for a moment, then spoke in Zalarian. How they knew to speak my home language was beyond me, but I'll never forget what it said. Me? I asked, confused and admittedly a little terrified. Well, command as a whole, Commander Zeorp explained. The biped said, we don't know why you attacked us, but tell your superiors, it won't happen again. and then it shoved me in the escape pod and ejected. Sir, they took our standard seize and investigate protocol as an act of aggression. And... Get to the point, Commander. I knew where Commander Zeorp was going with this, but I had hoped I was wrong. Well, you see, I've had a lot of time to think about this. Their ship, at least based on the data we received and from what I could make of it, well, there should have been more than 5. Only 5 made it out, but the ship they were in could have easily, comfortably had at least double that. My heart sank. I think, well, I know they took our actions as an act of aggression, but if I'm right, I think we may have accidentally killed some of them too. So if I'm right, they don't just think we are the aggressive ones, but their words weren't a warning to stay away, but a warning of retribution. Sir, he said, his voice starting to shake. They are coming. In retrospect, we should have seen this coming long before the Protector went missing. The Standard Seize and Investigate was one of the Federation's most controversial standard missions. Proponents against it noted it was highly aggressive and violated the rights of the species whom it was being done to. Advocates for it never really had a good counter to that, but mentioned it was necessary for the safety of the Federation. Besides, the Federation was the most advanced alliance in the known galaxy. Even if other alien species were unhappy with the policy, they could never stand up to the Federation in a meaningful way. It was foolish and short-sighted. It was only a matter of time before we ran into a species more powerful than us, and a Standard Seize and Investigate was not exactly the kind of first impression you wanted to make. In fact, had even made that exact objection at the Academy all those years ago, back when I was vehemently against the Standard Seize and Investigate. Of course, over time I had wised up and realized it was a necessarily evil for the good of the Federation. But now I realized, too late, my younger self was the wise one. This policy was our undoing. It was just a matter of time. But after 3 rotations, they didn't come and there was no invasion. I had just started to relax and things were starting to return to normal, save for a small fleet protecting each planet and a few warships stationed at my outpost. Sir, the ensign said, motioning me over to her station. We have detected a small fleet of 12 vessels of unknown configuration heading right for us. My heart started to sink. The ships are still a few light years out, but are coming in fast. We estimate no more than a few hours before arrival. The automated outposts were unable to identify the ships, but we did get a single match on a symbol, but the symbol file is classified. Without a word, I walked over to the console and inputted my command code. The image came up and I froze. That feeling had come over me again. The primal fear of being watched by a predator who had you in their sights. But this time, it wasn't a story. This time, it wasn't something that was happening to someone else. This time, it was real, and it was happening now. The communication officers quickly started sending a string of messages to command, but it didn't take long before one of them stopped and turned back to me. Sir, we are being jammed. Sir, what do we do? My next in command asked me. I hadn't taken my eye off that symbol, the one recognized symbol, the symbol the Protector crew had found on that alien ship's hull, the one connection we had to the bipedal aliens. But this wasn't one ship, it was 12, and all of them had this symbol on it. I still didn't know what the symbol meant, but at this point it didn't really matter. Even so, it was all I could do to stare at the screen, to stare at that symbol. The Federation's day of reckoning had come. We didn't know much about our enemy, but we knew the symbol by which they identified their ships. Terran Alliance. Sir, what do we do? My next in command asked me again in a more urgent tone. I was frozen in fear. For the first time in my career as a general, I did not know.
If you finish this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, I liked the story, and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.